Hi, welcome to the series, my brush tutorial series. This is part 2 of 3. And if you missed part 1 that I did yesterday, just go up here and follow that feed and you can see it there. So welcome. If you are a cream makeup user, if you use Seint cream makeup, or if you use really any type of cream makeup, we're going to be talking about cream brushes, and I'm going to be sharing and showing 3 different cream brushes. The one that I'm going to be showing first, this one here is a double-ended brush. It's called the blush and bronzer brush. So this end is very nice and loosely packed, and then this is really big fluffy end for bronzing. This can be working for your cream foundation or highlight, we call them, with Seint, or foundation and blush and things like that. The other one I'm going to show you is called the blend brush, and this is a brush that is very loose. This is the one that is great for the most minimal application, and it also is great for applying some other types of products, but for cream application in this brush, it really is made to work for the most minimal application. So this is a great brush to do that, and I'll show you how to use it. And then the third brush I'm going to show today is our powder brush. So this brush is made to work with the Seint setting powder, or any loose translucent setting powder. It's got a nice angled end here and a more dense end here. So I'll talk a little bit about this brush and how we use it with powder, but also how it can be used with cream. Okay, so let's get going. Welcome again. My name's Karen, and I am a Seint artist. I'm going to be showing you and sharing, like I said, part 2 of 3 of brush tutorial. So let's get going. All right, the first thing I want to talk about is the first brush. So this is the blush and bronzer brush. This brush gives you probably a nice medium application. The brushes, I'd say light to medium application. This end of the brush is like the gold. This is like my favorite end of all of our double-ended brushes. This is like the brush I love the best, this end of it. It's just loosely packed. It's so great for applying your main cream shade, your blush, and all of that. And then this end here is a great end to apply cream bronzer. And it's like, wow, that's so big and it's so loose, but the cream bronzers are very translucent. And so this is a great way to really disperse that bronzer color out. So again, all double-ended brushes. So let me start putting some makeup on and show you how I'm going to use this brush. So first thing I usually start with is my contour, my cream contour. And this brush, you could apply and put contour on with this end by squeezing it and pouncing it on. You can also use this end of the brush if you love the concept of the drawing on the paint, your cream makeup. So I know you've probably seen so many videos where there are artists, Seint artists, applying their makeup like they're drawing it on, or they're doing the dot method, you know. So if you were to do something like that, this end is great for blending that out. So why don't I show you that? It's not a technique that I use the most, but I will show you how it works. Okay, so this is cream bronzer. So I would take my finger and hold it over to warm up. So the warmth of my finger helps warm up the cream in the contour. And then I can come up here and apply this contour adjusted to my face. So where would I apply that? Depending on my forehead, how tall it is, how far I come down. Then I can take and apply it underneath my cheekbones. So I'm feeling out here, and then I'm just drawing that right underneath. It's a little, I don't do this as much, but let me just show you. So I can feel where that cheekbone is, and I'm just kind of drawing that under that cheekbone. And if I make a little mistake, I can brush it up, not a big deal. You can use that to put it on your nose. Like if you wanted to contour the edge of your nose, you can just run it down with your finger. And then same thing down here along your jawline. I'm just loading it up and drawing. Can you see the color here? I'm just drawing this on, just painting it on with my finger, okay? So that would be one way that you could do that. And if you're going to do that, you wanna let the makeup warm up on your skin a bit, and then you can use this end of the blush and bronzer to actually blend that in. Now you can draw and paint all over your face in dots, but I like to blend as I go. And so if you are wanting to do this technique where you draw or dot it on, you know, I suggest trying it this way, where you're actually are pouncing it and blending it in after you draw it on. So then you can go back in and decide, do I need more? Did I blend it well? You can always add more if you want to. So if I needed a little bit more of the contour, I can go back in. And our contour, the cream contour, actually provides coverage. So this is going to be part of my foundation. And then on my nose, I can just kind of just do a light little flicking. And then here I'm just doing some pouncing. Okay, so that would be my contour. Very subtle, but that's kind of how I like it. And so it can be as intense or as subtle as you like. Just you can build up with this makeup by adding more. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is go into my color corrector or camouflage shade. And on this side here, I'm going to pick it up with my finger. And I like to just kind of take a little bit off, and I will come in and apply it to my eyelids. So this is the a peachy kind of orangey shade. It is a highlight shade, which is what we call the makeup with Seint. So basically it's a cream foundation shade, but you can actually use this shade here. It's called Mango. Is really great for color correcting areas that have a lot of blue purple. So on my eyelids, even though, you know, there's a lot of veins showing and things like that start to happen underneath your eyes, you know, you can just tap a little bit here. If you have bluish purple, a lot of times we get that right here where, right on the inner part here where your skin starts to thin and you see like a lot of bluish purple veins. So I'm just tapping this on first with my finger. Where else would I need it? Well, you look at your face and you decide where would you need a little extra. So, you know, I get a little red, so I'm just gonna tap a little bit here. If you have any sunspots or age spots that you need a little extra coverage on. And then down here where I have a lot of broken capillaries and on my nose. So areas where you have blue-purple discoloration or even bluish-red kind of rosacea, if you have that, that's where you would want to apply this type of extra camouflage shade. Then I'm just going to take my brush again, and this time I'm going to swirl it around and really just kind of buff that color in. So since I don't have any makeup in this area, the only makeup I have is right here where my contour is. So I would be careful around this area that I'm not swirling because I don't want to pull that makeup off. But everywhere else that I applied it, I don't really have any other makeup. So I can just kind of come in and just swirl that around. And I can always go back in and add more if I want and swirl it. So we're doing kind of like that draw on with our finger and then using this to blend up on my eyelids. And then kind of underneath my eyes, I can just kind of tap. So it's pretty simple, easy, right? Then we would go into our main shade. And like I said, I'm blending as I go because I feel like I don't over apply the makeup. I actually can see where it's covering and where it isn't. So now I'll go into my main foundation shade and tap in a little bit and then just kind of start dotting or draw, oops, this one. Kind of just start dotting it on or drawing it on where you usually put your main shade. So this would be like where you would apply your main foundation shade if you were using traditional foundation, right? So just kind of go around and just dot some on. Can you see that on there? And then I'll take this brush. Now at this point, since I have colors underneath, I'm not going to swirl or buff. I'm actually going to do what I like to call the stippling motion. And this brush is beautiful for that because it's a nice, almost, it's not quite flat, but a little bit. And it just pounces beautifully to blend and move that cream makeup around. So I'm just taking now and stippling, and I want to make sure that I'm paying attention to where I put those colors so that I don't miss blending any in. So all of our palettes have mirrors. So I'm going to look in here and I'm just blending by stippling. I'm not adding more makeup at this point. I drew the makeup on or dotted it on where I needed it, and now I'm taking it and blending it around to make sure that I have the coverage that I want and where I want it. And then I can take a minute and look back and decide, do I need a little extra coverage anywhere? So I'll tap back in since we're doing the paint on with our finger method. On this side, I'm just gonna take. Now, you don't have to do like the paint on with this brush all the time. You can actually use this end here to apply your main shade. You're just gonna tap in and then you can come in and start tapping and pouncing on your face. It's mostly for, it's a little bit harder to apply this with the contour, and it's a little bit harder to get into smaller areas with color correcting. But if you had larger areas, you can buff them on first in the color corrector, and then your main shade, you can tap in, or you can do the draw on. But I like to kind of blend as I go. See how we're doing. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Then if I'm going to just be using this brush, I'm going to do a little bit more of the drawing on. So I'm going to take a bit of my brightener, or you may think of it as a concealer, and I'm going to strategically place this where I need to add a little bit of light. So the side of my nose, I like to put a little out here, and then I might put just some underneath my eye bag, and maybe a little bit up here above my brow. You can also place a little bit down the bridge of your nose, top of your lip, chin if your chin needs to pull forward. So this is just adding, if your neck is lighter than your face, and it's, you know, look here, I've got a little, so I can add a little bit of this color down here just to make that transition a little bit better. So then I'll go back to this brush, this end of it, the fluffy end of the blush and bronzer. And again, we're not swiping because we're going to move makeup. We're actually just doing the stippling. You can call it pouncing or stippling, where I'm just tapping over and making sure that I'm getting that makeup to blend in and to move a bit, and making sure that it's not staying or looking like a dot or a stripe anywhere. You really want to make sure you do that. So I'm going to grab my mirror again and just get in here. Now, if it's kind of hard to get into this area, you can just take your finger and use that to blend and move. Just the warmth of your finger by tapping can move that and blend that color a bit. Okay, so there we go. This side here, we're getting it going great. Okay, so we've done contour, color correcting or camouflaging, a main shade, and a brightener or concealer shade. So let's go ahead and do our blush. So this is the blush and bronzer brush. So you can actually pounce right into the blush if you'd like. Just tap, tap, and apply your blush directly with your brush. Just pouncing it on. Again, we don't want to swipe because we've got makeup underneath. We don't want to move makeup, but just pouncing over the top. Okay, so that's really easy, but you could also do the draw or dot method where you've just dotted it on and then take this brush and pounce over. So that, just keep pouncing until those dots start to move and blend together so that you don't see them. There you go. Put a little on my lips too. Okay, because it's lip and cheek, which is great. So that is a great way to use the blush and bronzer brush for your full face so far. Contour, camouflaging, your main shade, your brightener shade, your blush, and then you can use it for bronzer as well. So for bronzer, you can take the big fluffy end, and a lot of times I like to put two bronzers next to each other so this brush just swirls over the top, especially if you're a big fan of bronzer. You can even mix a couple different bronzing shades, you know, ones that maybe have a little bit more warmth and some that are just, this one here is called Bella. It's a great neutral bronzer that works with so many skin tones. So I'm just going to take this end and I'm just going to lightly swirl over the top. We don't need to swipe into it. We're just going to take and just almost like you're feather dusting, like let's just feather dust the top of this bronzer, and you just pick up the smallest amount, and then you're going to do almost the same motion like this light feather dusting where you would normally place your bronzer. So I'm doing almost little tiny swirls. I'm not heavily swiping. And go back in. You see how subtle then sheer that is. Pick up a little bit here, and then I'll bring it down on my temples. And just like with all of the cream makeup, everything is buildable. So depending on how much bronze you want, you can keep going back in. You can put some on your nose, on your chin, down on your neck. You can keep doing that and building up as much coverage as you like. All right, so very easy. The only thing I'm noticing right now is my nose is still very red. So I'm going to go back in with this end of my blush and bronzer, and I'm going to pick up a little bit more of this color correcting shade. I'm going to tap into it, and then I'm going to come in and tap over, kind of little wispy movements on that nose because it was very, very red. It needs a little bit more coverage. And that's what's so great, is that you can build coverage with this makeup. I always say start with less. It's easier to add than it is to take away. It's easier to add more makeup than it is to try to blend out makeup that you've applied too much. Okay, so very nice. That part is a great brush. This is my favorite brush with this. So if you have favorites of your brushes, if you know, a lot of times I get asked, what are your 2 favorite brushes? It happens to be this brush that I used yesterday, the detail brush, because I can contour with it, I can get into smaller areas, and then the blush and the bronzer. This gives me the best application for my age, for the makeup. This is 4 brushes, technically 4 brushes in 2, and these are my favorites. So this is the combination that I really would recommend, especially if you're new to cream makeup, is to get this combination. You will never ever be disappointed with the application that you get, and you'll always be able to do everything that you need on your eyelids, smaller places, down your nose, you know, contouring, and then of course main shade, bronzing, blush, all of that. So you will love it. These 2 are my favorite. So this is the one I used yesterday. So this is the blush and bronzer brush. And again, it's more for a light to medium coverage. You can see it didn't add too much makeup. It is great for just doing the paint on and dot on method. It's a great blending brush for that. But it's not, the downside is it's harder to get into smaller areas. You'd have to actually, you know, use your finger to blend those smaller areas out. But everywhere else, it's just a great, great brush. Okay, so this one here, if you don't have it, would be a great brush to get. Okay, so the next brush we're going to talk about is the blend brush. And this is the brush that is the loosest brush for cream makeup that we have. I mean, it's very, very loose. You know, here, this one's a little bit more dense. This one looks a lot like the end of the detail brush. So this is great for getting into small areas, but this brush will give you the least amount of coverage. So if you are someone that is, when you say I am a no makeup gal, but you just want a little coverage, you just want some of your distractions kind of blended in, you just want a little bit of light or depth to your face, then this would be the brush. But this brush is not going to give you full coverage or even medium coverage. And if you use this brush and you want to build it up to full or medium coverage, you can. It's just going to take you a while. It's going to take you a lot more time than normally putting this makeup on in 5 minutes or less. Okay, so this brush is the loosest brush we have. So let's start with contouring with it. Yes, you can contour with it in a couple different ways. You can use the smaller end that's more dense, and you can actually just tap into the contour here. So remember, our contours are firmer, so you can press in, and then you can come up here and actually just do a little bit of this pressing motion, and you can see how the color can go down pretty, you know, with this brush, the way you're pressing it in, it can go down pretty much like a medium coverage, which is nice if you want that. Now, if you don't want that, then you can take and blend this much softer, or you could just apply the contour on your forehead with this end of the brush, swirling in lightly, and just lightly dusting a little bit of contour on your forehead. So you can see that that would be such a much less coverage. Same thing underneath here. If you wanted to, you can take this end of the brush and pounce in to get, you know, if you're pouncing it, you're going to get a little bit more coverage. If you want less coverage, take and swirl this end and just lightly kind of do this little kind of swirly motions where you're just almost dusting it up underneath. Even though it's cream, it's almost like you're just kind of dusting it up underneath. So it's very, very light coverage, but it's still giving you a very, because the contour adds part of your foundation, it actually adds coverage, so it helps. And then down here on your jawline, same thing. You could take this end if you wanted a little bit more full coverage. Just take and pounce in a little heavier, and you can just kind of draw that on. Or again, to blend it, you can take this end and just lightly blend along your jawline. And then don't forget to always pull on your jaw. You're going to pull it down and back. On your cheeks, you're going to flick it up. And on your forehead, it's up into the hairline, and then it's also down. Okay, so that's kind of the order for contour blending. Now, for going in and color correcting, this is great because it's the small end of this brush, so I can actually get into these smaller areas. So I'll tap into my color corrector camouflage shade, just a tap tap. And this works great for applying it to my eyelids that need that coverage, because I can actually apply it on and I can blend it on. I can do little swirly motions if I want to buff with it and get that all over my lid. So that's really, really helpful. And let me see, oh yeah, that really helps to color correct those areas. I can bring it in here. Now, if I have to color correct underneath my eyes, same thing. I can take this end of the brush and just lightly tap and come in and just kind of decide where you need that. You can get a little bit more precise, just tapping just a bit. And then I like to take that brush and just take that color and kind of swirl them into each other. So I'm going to swirl from the outside in, maybe do a little tapping in between so that it covers underneath my eye, but it's not showing a lot of that orange color. I want it to actually filter just the areas that are the darkest. So nose, okay, I had a lot of issues on this side with my nose, so I definitely need to tap into my color corrector, and I'm really going to buff it on my nose. Buffing that color corrector all around here where I have all this redness, and making sure that that helps filter that out and get me some nice coverage. Even though it's a smaller brush, it will help with that. If I wanted it to be less and I didn't have a lot of issues with, maybe I have just a little bit of redness, I can use this end of it and a larger area and just lightly kind of swirl over and come in and just buff a little bit of that color corrector shade over areas that are larger that you need to maybe filter out. So like down here on my chin, I can come in and just lightly buff that over this area to filter that, okay? Sunspots and age spots, you know, this is nice because you have that smaller end, so I can tap and press that on and just kind of blend that in. If I wanted it to be maybe just a little bit of, maybe I had a larger area of melasma over here, same thing, I can just lightly feather over it, being careful that I'm not, you know, disturbing the contour too much or unblending the contour too much. Because sometimes you can blend your colors out way too much and then you wonder, well, did I even put it on? But this is more of a natural application, light application brush. So that's so great for that. Okay, so then let's go ahead and you want to add just a bit of coverage of your main foundation. So then just use this end and lightly kind of swirl over, or you can tap, swirl, just pick some color up on it, and then come in and do the same motion, just lightly. Now, you can press it or tap a bit, but really at this point, even though we have makeup kind of around and under, we just want to be careful in the areas where we have maybe color corrected a bit, that in those areas we do a little bit more of a pouncing, so that you're not totally moving that color underneath and muddling it. But it's okay to go over the top. We just need to kind of do more of a little powder pounce kind of thing where we're just taking and pouncing it. So areas where I don't have like right in here, then I'll just go back to just a very light, little light kind of feather dusting or swirling of a color, a main color shade. So that's a very, very light application. Very, very light, okay? All right, and then for a brightener, if you wanted to, we can just go right back to this end of the brush again and just tap in just a little bit and decide maybe you want a little right here. So I can just lightly feather that right along the side of my nose. Kind of tap, same thing, tap, tap. I might want some underneath my eye bag here, just a little bit to pull forward that shadow. Maybe you like to add a little bit out here, or to clean up your eyeshadow. You know, if you did an eyeshadow look and you needed to kind of clean up along here, brighten up this part of your face. And you can even switch over to this side of the brush and just lightly dust on a little bit of brightener. So I could take it and just swirl it in this way, and then very light-handed. So the deal with this brush is we are swirling a bit. We're not really swiping, but we're keeping our hand very loose so that when we are applying these other colors over the top of other colors, we're not really disturbing the colors underneath, because we're either keeping it very loose in our hand and we're applying it, or we're doing more of a little pouncing, a little light pouncing to put that color on. Okay, so blush, very easy to add blush with this as well. You could dot it on, but I want to warn you, if you're going to use this brush to blend out areas that you dot, you have to work pretty hard to get those dots to disappear. So it's better to take this brush and do the same concept, take and swirl it over whatever color blush you want to use, just a light swirling, and then come in and repeat that. So just, gosh, look how pigmented our blushes are. So then I'm just lightly kind of swirling where I want this. If I wanted it more on the balls of my cheeks, I could pull it forward a bit. If I wanted it more lifted, I'm just lightly adding that color. Okay. And if you get too much, like, you know, this may be too much for you for that, then you can, one, just kind of let your skin settle down, because sometimes when you are pouncing on your skin, the red, like the blood underneath and the blood vessels underneath are kind of being flared up to, you know, add that blush underneath your blush. But if you wait a bit, you're going to notice that this will probably just calm down quite a bit. But you can see that that is a very nice, soft makeup, not very much at all. So that would be how you would get that with this brush here, the blend brush. And again, if you find that you're somebody that over applies their color corrector shade, you know, this is a nice brush in larger areas. If you really like to keep things very soft and not over apply, this would be a great brush. But if you want full coverage or even medium coverage on other days, and this is the only brush you got, you could do it. You just have to keep building layers. It'll take a little bit longer. This also works great to apply bronzer. I actually love this end of the brush to add bronzer because it's smaller, so I can still do that little, the same kind of concept of swirling, but I'll be more precise where I want it. So I can come up here and do that and swirl and add my bronzer where I want my bronzer to go. And you've noticed that I'm not really cleaning, I'm not having to clean my brushes off in between changing colors. They're not mudding or, you know, up my palettes, and it's really not mudding up on my skin as well, because like I was showing yesterday, you know, cream makeups work. They blend together with other cream makeups. They like each other. They're not like oil and water. They're like oil and oil. They're like cream and cream or water and water. They like to blend together. So you don't need to worry about, you know, having things end up looking like mud. It's all going to work together, and it's all going to blend so nicely. So that is the blend brush. Okay. So we did the blush and bronzer brush, which is one of my favorite brushes, especially when you marry it with the detail brush. These are my two favorite together. And then we just did this one here, which is a very light application, the blend brush. And you can use this for so many different ways, and it just is a great brush if you like a really natural light coverage. And then we're gonna do now the last brush, and this is the powder brush. So this is a unique brush. It's made to be used with powders, but you could also use it to apply cream makeup. But let's do, let me show you how to use it on this side with powders first, and then we'll do the powder first, because that's not gonna mess up our powder. If you are gonna be using any of your brushes that have cream makeup on it into powders, you know, make sure that you wash, you know, you clean those off. You don't need to wash them necessarily, but I would definitely remove, you know, as much of the excess, any excess makeup that's on this brush. You can actually also take a brush cleanser, like this is a brush, a spray-on brush cleanser. And so I can just put some on a towel or a little microfiber cloth and just swirl over, and it'll clean, it'll sanitize, and it'll help remove all the makeup that's on those individual hairs or bristles. And that'll help so much. So look at that. And then the nice thing is that you just use so little of it that it's dry, and I don't need to let these brushes sit overnight or dry. I can use them right away. So this is a spray-on brush cleanser. Amazing. This is such great stuff. Okay, so I know I'm going really fast here, but I want to make sure that this one isn't super long. I know my first tutorial was way long, the part one. So I'm trying to make this one a little bit less long. At any time too, if you have questions, make sure you put them here. I'm live in the chat, so you can just comment down there, and you'll notice that I'm responding back to you in the chat, not in the camera here, because I'm actually doing this as a live chat, so that I can really concentrate on teaching you how to do the makeup. But then also when I'm streaming live, I can actually concentrate on communicating and answering your questions. So let me know if you like this format, and if you do, I'll keep doing it. And if you don't, give me some feedback as well on what you don't like about it. But I will be, if you notice, I'm down here in the comments, commenting back to you live as you're asking me the questions. So the powder brush is really great. So this end here is kind of at an angle. This is great for like tapping underneath your eye, along your cheek if you wanted to. You can powder your T-zone with this. So when you're using or any setting powder, this is a translucent setting powder in a tin. We would just take this in and just press into it to pick up some of the color, and then just take and pounce. So if you have you like more of a matte T-zone, maybe you get really oily and you just like to kind of take that down or help with the oiliness, then you just press it on, okay, which is nice. Let's say you've done your color corrected your eyelids like I do with my cream highlight foundation, and I want to then apply eyeshadow. I want to set those eyelids with some powder, so I'm going to use this end, this more dense end, and I'm going to press it into the powder. Okay, so I pick it up, and then I'm going to come in. Let me start this way. I'm going to powder all the way up to my eyelid, all the way on my lid, and then I'll turn my brush this way and actually just powder that whole lid. And that really helps set that makeup so that when I go to put my eyeshadows on, they are gonna just love being applied over the top of that powder, because likes like. So powder likes sitting on top of powder, cream likes blending and sitting with cream, so on and so forth. Okay, so this is a great brush. Very simple brush for applying your powder. It's also a great brush because it can get right underneath. Like if you wanted to just go underneath here, you have to really set your under eye. Majority of the time, if you're using a very small amount of the cream makeup and not over applying it, you can avoid adding powders. I mean, I really rarely ever add powder except to my eyelids. And I usually just spray with some setting spray, and I'm good that way. And then I keep it very dewy and glowy, and I don't worry about mattifying or making any exaggerated lines or wrinkles by adding too much powder. But a translucent setting powder is great as long as you're using one that's finely milled and that is translucent when you put it on, so that it's just a nice, very thin, very finely milled. It's not like a pressed powder. Okay, so let's go ahead and show you, if you wanted to use this one to apply cream makeup, you sure can. You just want to, like I said, don't use it with cream and then go into your powder without cleaning it off. But you can use like this end here to press on blush. So you can just tap in. It's a little tricky because it's a little bit larger, so you may have to see how it doesn't quite fit. But you could take and even, tap on color if you want to, and then use this end to blend it. So just that pouncing motion, that stippling motion, and it's gonna give you probably a little bit more coverage because these are more dense brushes. They are made for powder, but I'm showing you how you can use it for cream. You could also use this end to apply like a little bit of brightener maybe along the side of your nose. It fits real nice. So if you like to brighten this whole area, you can tap into your brightener cream or concealer cream, whatever you want to call that, and just kind of come in and press along here. Press it. It fits kind of nice right in there. Just kind of press it, and then you want to continue to press and make sure you're getting that blended nicely. Let me check my mirror as usual. And if you need to, where it gets in here where it's a little smaller, always use your finger to kind of help blend that out. So that works real nice. This is also great if I wanted to brighten kind of up in here. I could tap in. This would be a little more full coverage because this is such a dense brush. When you apply it, you're going to see a lot more makeup go on. So just be aware of that. If you are someone that likes a lot more heavier application, you can do that. But then you really do need to work a little bit harder if you want to blend it in. You need to kind of keep pouncing, because if not, it may look a little exaggerated by having this over, this area that's way too bright. And so to fix that, I'm just going to go back to my blush and bronzer brush with no makeup on it and continue to pounce and move that color and just keep pouncing and pouncing, and it's gonna just kind of help blend that in. So there we go. Now it's not as bright and obvious to have that color up there. So let me see my notes and see. And yes, keep asking questions here, and I'll be typing down there and responding to you. So this one, again, blush and bronzer brush, detail brush. This is the duo. This is the magic duo, especially with cream makeup, especially with the Seint cream makeup. These are double-ended brushes. They come in a rose gold finish, or they come in now a gold finish, brand new. And this is just a great combination. So yesterday and today, we now have part 1 and part 2 showing a total of 6 different Seint cream brushes. Well, one's more of a powder brush here, but 6 different brushes that you can use for face application and how to use them. So if you missed the part 1, just go back to my page and you'll see it on there. And this was part 2. So thank you so much for watching this, and I hope it was helpful. If you would like, you can comment continually after this is over. You can comment replay and still ask questions, and I will be answering. I'll follow up and go back and answer those for you. But thanks so much, and tomorrow I will have part 3 of 3, which is all going to be about eyeshadow brushes, brow brushes, and some miscellaneous brushes, and how we can incorporate them to get the best application, especially if we are more mature. Like me, I'm 57. My name's Karen. I really love sharing about this makeup. And if you ever need help or want to know more, just message me. Interested, like I always say, if you are interested in getting to know what your colors would be, you can always reach out to me for a free color match, and I can tell you your shades and help you with that. I also help you choose the right brushes for the best application for the type of makeup coverage that you're looking for. Thanks again, and I appreciate you being here. Bye-bye.